I didn't know what to expect when I stepped off the plane in Homer, Alaska, for my summer internship with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, also known as NOAA. I would live and work at NOAA's Kasutsina Bay Laboratory on Ketchikan Bay. Ketchikan Bay is in the south-central part of Alaska, about 200 miles southwest of Anchorage in the lower part of Cook Inlet. Coming from the Midwest, most of my ocean knowledge came from travel ads for the tropics. I had heard Alaska was rugged and cold, so I assumed marine life would be sparse. Instead, I found a colorful marine ecosystem full of life. The environment supported not only a rich biological community, but also thriving industries, including oyster farms, which produced my favorite summer treat. At Kasutsina Bay Lab, I was able to work with local NOAA and State of Alaska researchers and study the unique features of Ketchikan Bay that make the oyster industry possible. Ketchikan Bay is a fjord-type estuary, meaning a deep bay carved out by glaciers where fresh and ocean water meet. Deep ocean currents and fresh water from snow and glacial runoff carry nutrients into the bay. Microscopic plants, called phytoplankton, thrive in the bay's nutrient-rich waters. These phytoplankton are the foundation of the food web and are the main food source for oysters. Changing climate conditions can modify temperature and flow, plankton growth, and nutrient supply, all of which affects oysters. My summer job was to analyze environmental data and help understand those changes. I also collected oceanographic data and plankton samples in the field. But it was the oyster farmers who made this work personal for me. Ketchikan Bay oysters are prized because though the industry is small, the cold and pristine waters produce delicious, reliably safe oysters. Dedicated oyster farmers work hard to bring this flavorful product to market. Marie Bader has been farming oysters in Ketchikan for 23 years. She described to me her labor-intensive search for the perfect oyster. Oysters are raised in cylindrical lantern nets suspended underwater. It can take 2 to 5 years to bring an oyster to market size. Each of these nets needs to be pulled up and cleaned regularly. They have to be checked for starfish that can get in the nets and eat the whole crop. Mussels and barnacles can grow on oyster shells and bring down their value. While it doesn't diminish their taste, consumers prefer the look of clean shells. To clean off the hitchhikers, farmers will leave their nets out of the water for 3 to 5 days. Oysters can survive out of the water for up to 3 weeks, but mussels and barnacles cannot. Each oyster of Marie's 50,000 oyster crop is handled about 5 times before it's delivered to the Homer docks. Oyster farming is truly a labor of love. Farmers also face the challenge of sudden explosions in the numbers of toxic phytoplankton species, events known as harmful algal blooms. Some of these species cause paralytic shellfish poisoning, which sickens and can even kill people and marine mammals. Harmful algal blooms are rare in Ketchikan Bay, but common in other parts of Alaska. Farmers work with state regulators to test all of the products they sell, but need better and cheaper detection technology to help manage this risk. While oysters thrive in Ketchikan Bay's waters and create a local industry, the farmed species aren't native to Alaska. The waters are too cold for these oysters to reproduce, so the seed, or oyster larvae, must be shipped in from out of the region. All the oyster farmers I spoke to described significant hurdles in obtaining and producing seed. Weatherly Bates of Glacier Point Oysters explained to me that the first few hours of oyster life are critical for their survival. Perfect water chemistry is needed for the seed. In 2007, there was a huge die-off of seed being raised in Oregon, a major supplier of Ketchikan Bay farms. The producers first thought this loss was due to disease, but learned that the real cause was pulses of more acidic water from the deeper ocean rising up into the shallow waters along the coast. This abnormal water chemistry was worsened by ocean acidification, the process by which carbon dioxide in the atmosphere dissolves in the ocean, making it more acidic. Oyster sensitivity made them a kind of canary in the coal mine for ocean acidification. The farmers are very in tune with their environment, but need more scientific knowledge to deal effectively with these challenges. In addition to the NOAA Kasutsina Bay Lab, the oyster farmers work with staff at the Ketchikan Bay Research Reserve, which is a collaboration between NOAA and the state of Alaska. I worked closely with NOAA's coastal science researchers who are monitoring the environment, plankton, and ocean acidification. NOAA is also using molecular DNA tools to develop new field test kits that will let farmers rapidly and cheaply detect toxins and keep people safe. Local community members are also being involved in monitoring programs for toxic plankton and invasive species. The Research Reserve has partnered with several oyster farms in Ketchimek by providing them with temperature and water chemistry gauges for data collection. By continuously monitoring the bay, farmers and scientists are able to keep the community enjoying delicious, safe oysters. The coastline of Alaska is vast. It would be impossible to study it all. But the oyster farmers are fortunate to have local coastal research centers that provide scientific data and tools to help manage Ketchimek Bay's resources. The understanding gained from research in ecological hotspots like Ketchimek Bay could be transferred to other coastal ecosystems across the state. In Ketchimek Bay, it's all about community effort, with oyster farmers, NOAA, and state researchers working together to sustainably manage and expand the industry for oysters. Before my summer in Alaska, I never would have known how much good science and hard work goes into farming oysters. Is it possible for knowledge to affect your taste buds? Because I've got a craving for a certain Ketchimek Bay delicacy.
Way up north to Alaska, way up north to Alaska, north to Alaska, go north for Russia's own. North to Alaska, go north to Russia's own. Big Sam left Seattle in the year of '92.